They didn't see you coming because you didn't come dressed like a hero. You didn't arrive with fanfare or permission. You walked in with a stare that said, "I've lost too much to lose myself." And while they polished their masks and perfected their image, you were in the trenches getting dirty, getting scarred, getting dangerous. You weren't chasing spotlight. You were chasing substance. You weren't waiting for a seat at their table. You flipped the whole damn table and built your own. You weren't born fearless. You just got tired of fear calling the shots. You stared rejection in the face so many times it got bored and left. You stopped running from pain and started studying it, because you realized real power isn't loud. It's not arrogant. It doesn't need to prove anything. Real power is earned in silence, when no one's clapping, when no one believes in you, when it's just you and the fight. And still you swing. They thought you'd break like the rest. They didn't know you were the storm the rest broke in. You learned to stand tall in the fire, not because you enjoyed burning, but because you figured out how to forge yourself in it. You got tired of surviving. You chose to dominate. And now, every time you move, they flinch. Every time you speak, they listen not because you're loud, but because you're undeniable. See, this world doesn't give crowns. It dangles them, just out of reach, just far enough to make most people quit. But not you. You climbed anyway. You bled anyway. You became what the crown feared, someone who didn't need it to prove their worth. Someone who turned every scar into strategy. Someone who showed up like war in a world full of whispers. So let them keep asking how you did it. Let them wonder how you're still standing. The answer? You stopped waiting to be chosen. You chose yourself. And that's something no one can steal, fake, or replicate. You didn't just earn your place. You became the standard. They thought the silence meant you gave up, that your absence meant defeat. But the truth is, you were in the shadows sharpening. You were unlearning their rules, rebuilding your mind brick by brick, learning how to move in a world that was never designed for you to win. You were becoming the version of yourself they never saw coming, the one who stopped explaining, stopped apologizing, and started executing. You see, they played games. You built strategies. They wanted attention. You wanted evolution. And while they measured success by noise, you measured it by impact. You weren't climbing for claps, you were climbing because there was no other way but up. And now your every step echoes with the sound of battles won in silence. You didn't rise because you were lucky. You rose because you refused to sink. You refused to fold. You refused to be another name they forget once the applause dies. Now they're uncomfortable. Not because you changed, but because you finally stopped shrinking. You stopped walking on eggshells for people who were never going to clap for you anyway. You stopped negotiating with your own greatness to make the mediocre feel safe. That part of you that used to beg for a chance, dead. That part that doubted if you were enough, gone. What's left now is something they can't box, can't silence, and sure as hell can't beat. Because you earned this. Every inch, every bruise, every late night and early morning, every tear you never let fall in public. You didn't inherit this strength, you built it. And while they were hoping you'd fall off, you were plotting your next level. No crown was handed to you. No favor was gifted. Everything you have, You snatched it out of the hands of doubt, fear, and every fool who thought you'd stay down. So walk like you own it, because you do. Speak like your voice rewrote history, because it is. And keep moving like there's no backup plan, because you are the plan. The storm, the answer, the proof. You don't wear the crown for decoration. You wear it to remind them. This was never given. It was earned. But don't let the late applause confuse you. It wasn't the cheers that got you here. It was the silence. It was the doubt. It was the nights you sat with nothing but your grit and the echo of your own heartbeat saying, keep going. Because when nobody clapped, you clapped for yourself. When nobody showed up, you still showed out. You didn't climb with a crowd, you climbed with your scars. And now you walk like someone who knows exactly what it costs to rise from nothing. You wear your pain like armor, your past like proof. You don't owe explanations. You owe yourself the throne, not to show off, to show them what happens when a soul refuses to quit. They can't box you in anymore. You've outgrown every limit they placed on your name. Every time they said you're not ready, you got sharper. Every "you're too much" turned into momentum. What they meant to break you only broke the illusion. Now you see it clear, they never hated you. They hated the mirror you held up to their comfort zones. You became everything they were too scared to chase. So stay dangerous, not reckless but precise. Move with the kind of calm that rattles cages. Speak with the kind of truth that makes liars twitch. Because this isn't just your moment. This is your era. The season where you stop knocking and start kicking doors open. The season where you stop proving and start embodying. They thought the fight would humble you. But you didn't come out humbled, you came out hungry. And now you take up space unapologetically. You demand what's yours without flinching. You don't need their seat at the table, you turned their whole table into firewood and built your own kingdom from the flames. So let them talk, let them doubt, let them watch from the sidelines they tried to bury you in. Because this crown, this reign, this legacy, it's not a gift, it's what you bled for. They'll study your moves like scripture now, searching for shortcuts in a path that nearly destroyed you. But you know the truth, they want the glow, not the grind. They want the crown, not the crucifixion. What they don't understand is that nothing about your rise was aesthetic. It was surgical. Every loss, every betrayal, every time you got played and kept quiet, you didn't just survive it. You documented it. You learned. You adapted. And you waited, not for revenge, but for position. Because when the world pushed you down, it didn't realize it was positioning you for something bigger. That pressure didn't crack you. It crystallized you. Now you shine without needing the spotlight. You move like someone who doesn't just belong, you own the damn ground they walk on. Not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. Because when you've been through fire and came out walking, you stop doubting your power. You stop explaining your strength. They'll never know the version of you that cried in silence, that broke behind closed doors and still showed up like nothing happened, that swallowed pain like poison and turned it into purpose. But that's okay. They weren't meant to see that part. That version wasn't for applause, it was for becoming. And now, you've become something untouchable, something unstoppable, something they whisper about because saying it out loud makes it too real. So keep rising, ruthless in your peace, calculated in your chaos. You don't owe softness to a world that tried to harden you. You owe yourself everything: respect, power, presence, and above all, truth. Because the moment you stopped begging, the world shifted. And every breath you take now is a reminder that you didn't just survive what was meant to end you, you turned it into your origin story. So wear that crown with grit, with edge, with memory. Because it's not just metal, it's made of every moment you refuse to fall. No crown given, every inch earned. They'll never grasp how much it cost you to become this version of yourself. Not just the bruises or the betrayals, but the internal war. The nights you had to kill off the timid version of you just to make room for the warrior. The mornings where you woke up with nothing but willpower and a heartbeat, yet still moved like you were destined. That's the part they'll never understand. It wasn't confidence that got you here. It was refusal to quit, to bow, to let their shallow labels define you. They wanted you quiet, manageable, predictable. But instead you turned into the storm that exposes everything fake and fragile. You used their doubt like rocket fuel. Every "you're not enough" turned into a battle cry. You didn't respond with words, you responded with transformation. And now, you walk in rooms and shift the energy without even speaking. That's not magic. That's the byproduct of becoming real in a world that worships illusions. They called you difficult. You became disciplined. They called you dramatic. You became dangerous. Every insult was an ingredient. Every setback, a stepping stone. You didn't just overcome, you absorbed the hate and converted it into heat. Now, everything you touch catches fire. Because when you finally realized no one was coming to save you, you became the damn storm and the sword. You don't need them to get it. You're not building for validation, you're building for impact. You're not climbing to prove anything, you're climbing because you can. And because you must. Because something in you decided that legacy matters more than comfort. That truth matters more than popularity. And that real power never begs, it becomes. So keep walking like you've been through war, because you have. Keep showing up like your name is carved in destiny, because it is. And never again lower your volume for those who can't handle your frequency. You weren't born to blend in. You were built to break the mold, burn the blueprint, and rebuild the system in your own image. No crown given, no favor owed, just grit, fire, and a legacy too bold to bury. Like, comment, and subscribe.